new face these days. But nonetheless, I just want to greet everyone. And once again, thank you so much for availing yourself. And I do hope that you find the session insightful. If you have any question afterwards, or if you would like us to run something similar for your institution, we would be happy to do so. Please reach out to my colleague Nadia. I think most people know her by now. She joined our team earlier this year as our Learning and Development Manager, and she facilitates and arranges all our sessions. So thank you so much, Nadia, for setting up this session as well. All right, so I'm going to switch off my camera just to ensure we don't have any interruption in the bandwidth. And I will be starting to share my screen shortly. All right, I trust everyone can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Perfect, thank you for confirming. All right, everyone, well, once again, a warm welcome from my end. It's been really good after all these years to still be able to continue and support the various institutions. Our company, Worldwide Information Services, have been a partner of Clarivate for over 12 years. So whilst we've had the opportunity to visit all institutions over the last couple of years, of course, during the last 2 years, a lot of our training and support sessions have been virtually. So we are blessed to be able to continue as such. But as I said, if you are interested in arranging a session for yourselves and for your institution, you're welcome to reach out. So yes, open access, and obviously we've seen the growth of open access throughout the years, and looking back, we can definitely see the change even in the publishing arena, where we see the uptake of more transformative deals, which has really enabled institutions to be able to publish more and make, for the authors themselves, make their work more widely accessible, which is really great because we want to be able to support science and research. But what about the other side? What about the visibility side of my research? And how can I really adopt an analysis to effectively determine what has been my output, what has been my impact? So I'm going to ensure that I take you through some of the things that most of you have access to, looking at a combination of indicators that you can look at. And once again, if you want to arrange something similar, you are welcome to reach out. So supporting open access initiatives, it really is important for me before I delve into any analytic indicators or analytics to ensure that you know that Clarivate is not a publishing house. So for them, it is of great importance to ensure that when you analyze data, when you discover data, you do it from the assurance that you're doing it with accurate and reliable information. So because they're not a publishing house, they offer publisher neutral and reliable trusted data. If we take open science as a complete concept, of course, open science is more broadly talked about than just the component around open access. But of course, open access, open peer review, open data, open source code, and ethical issues, it really is, all of these fall underneath open science. So today I'm going to largely concentrate on open access. So the Web of Science helps you to find full text from quality open access journals. Once again, they're not a publishing house. So the one thing for Clarivate is to ensure quality, right? So if a journal is a paywall journal or proprietary journal, or whether it follows open access models, that doesn't make a difference into whether a title would be indexed or not. What they concentrate on is whether it's reached a standard outlined by Clarivate. So I'm not here to talk about those standards, but if you want to reach out to me, you're welcome to do so. They are transparent, which is one of the key things why Chris also uses the Web of Science data, because of the transparency and the accuracy of the data. So it really helps you, having access to the Web of Science and accompanying tools, to be able to not only find full text papers from open access, and I know open access is openly available. But how can you be sure that if you just do a search on the broader internet space, that it's a reliable source that you can look at? So you still need to discover literature from a reputable source. And you also want to ensure once it's published that you can measure the impact of your institution's investment in open access. So what I'll be concentrating today is the Web of Science, journal citation reports, the master journal list, EndNote click and insights, benchmarking, and analytics. Right, so delving into the Web of Science core collection, and I will be spending a lot of time on the actual tools themselves. So if there are any questions, please feel free to make use of the chat box. We'll be monitoring it throughout. So the Web of Science core collection really is the center of where we focus on. So maybe just to reiterate, and for those that I have been able to visit in the last couple of weeks, I've said this, and this is just repeated to remind you what the difference is between the Web of Science and the Web of Science core collection. The Web of Science is the platform on which we could host several databases. The core collection really is the center of it all, and that is where we would be able to find our premium indexes, the Arts and Humanities Citation Index, Conference Science Citation Index, and Social Sciences Citation Index. These three make up the premium indexes or premium collection within the Web of Science core collection. Also important to note, these are the ones that are accredited by D8. So within the accredited premium indexes, you are able to identify open access journals, but you also have access, if you've got access to the Web of Science core collection through SANLIC, you also have access to the Emerging Sources Citation Index, which was really great because it allowed for more South African journals to be included. And you also have the option to add conference proceedings and the Book Citation Index. Together, they are known as the Web of Science core collection, so it really just depends on what your level of access is. When it comes to finding quality information, this is really where we are concentrating, in particular, the three main core collection indexes. So you are also able to use what they call the master journal list, and I'll be going to the master journal list so that you can view where certain journals have been indexed. Many a time they may only be indexed in some of the other databases, which are also hosted on the Web of Science platform. And if you have any questions around anything relating to any of the databases, you are welcome to reach out to me. What you also have access to is the Hello Citation Index, which is an open access resource. The citation index is hosted exclusively on the Web of Science platform. And it's proven quite significantly for us because there is a South African collection as part of the CLO Citation Index. This is managed by ASO. So that's also a really great resource for literature searching. If you do an all database search and you've got access to a number of Web of Science databases or databases on the Web of Science, then you are able to look at the CHELO Citation Index together with the Web of Science core collection and find your papers. Right, so within the Web of Science, and I'll be able to do that live in a moment just to provide background, we are able to see a full picture of what we've published in terms of open access. Not only does it display all open access, in other words, just a number of papers, but it allows you to see of open access because there are different forms of open access, as we've seen and learned about over the years. You can look at gold, you can look at green, you can look at hybrid. So all of these are examples that are available. So you are able to refine your results. And this can be broken down for different countries. So you can even look at Canada as an example to see where they have published open access. And these visualizations are available to be downloaded. By exporting the data, you can also use other applications to do customized charts. There are really nice tools out there that once you download the data, if you feed it into those, then you are able to create your own graphs, as the examples are shown on screen. Also, what we are able to see within the Web of Science is once you've done a search, so let's say you've done a topic search, or you've done an affiliation search, or even an author search, you are able to filter down for open access. And immediately from the result list, you are able to access the full text from the publisher immediately. The filters are provided for all open access types, so you would be able to then access the full text. So it makes the discovery of the full text paper so much easier. Going into the arena of the Web of Science and really enhancing your research experience and also the discoverability and accessing full text papers, what they've done is they've also added complementary or open access resources, such as EndNote Click. It was formerly known as Cupanio, and once again, not to confuse EndNote with EndNote Click. EndNote Click is a pre-plug-in browser that allows you one-click access to full text. It also integrates with library holdings. And you can have it on any device, whether it be a desktop, laptop, or mobile device. And earlier this year, the current users worldwide was over 750,000 researchers. So it's really easy to use. You can create your account. You can also use your Web of Science or EndNote credentials. There's also an option to, you can select institution, which would then allow from an administrator point of view for an institutional view to see what type of papers are being accessed. But it's a free plugin, so if you haven't yet downloaded it, please go ahead and download it. It works really nice because it allows you to save time. So you access the full text far easier than with any other plugin. So when you are using various academic search engines, of course, the library subscribes to a variety of different search engines, such as Web of Science or PubMed. How it works is EndNote Click searches for your full text PDFs that you've got access to. So either the ones that you've got access to through your holdings, or through a legally available version, open access version out there. And it gives you a one-click. So as you can see in the example, you can look at the publisher version. You can look at the open access version. So all of these would then be available to you to access the full text of those papers. And you can just click on the view PDF and it immediately takes you there. So it's a really, really nice plugin that you can use. And once again, it's completely free. Okay, when you click on the EndNote plugin, the EndNote Click plugin, what you're also able to see when you go into your EndNote Locker, it takes you to that portal where you've stored or accessed those papers. You'll be able to see title, author, and journal here. You'll also be able to see citation count from the Web of Science core collection, and then, of course, the PDF version, the source, and the direct link. Plus, you'll be able to open the PDFs in your EndNote Click Locker and download the PDFs. So it is, once again, a really nice tool for you to able to download. So go to your Web of Science or go and look at, if you go and in your URL, just type in EndNote Click, it will give you the options for Chrome, Mozilla, Explorer to be able to download the extension. So this is really nice. It's obviously nice for the users, but what are the benefits for the libraries? So you get an institutional dashboard that really provides the analysis of the PDFs the users are trying to access with EndNote, whether they've been successful or not. So you can see that the PDF, it breaks it down into total PDF views. You'll be able to look at publisher hosted view events or open access alternatives. and you'll be able to see how they worked through it. So you could see of Taylor and Francis, what did they try and access, of Wiley, what did they try and access. So the breakdowns are by publisher and by journal, and it provides the open access information as well, which can indicate which collections. Of course, this can also be used as evidence-based in terms of collection development, so we can showcase how much it is in demand, and also how much open access content is available from it. Because what we've seen over the years is that whilst it's easy to discover, for example, gold open access papers, the hybrid open access papers are a bit more tricky, right? Because the journal itself still sits behind a paywall, but it's only a proportion of the journal that is freely accessible. So this benefit can be made available to all sites that are subscribing to the Web of Science. And I think most of you that have joined the session do have access to the Web of Science. So you are able to look into that for you. Reach out to us if you have any questions. All right, so that brings me to insights, benchmarking, and analytics. And then I'll be jumping into some of these tools. So Insights uses the Web of Science data, but it allows you to report on a more granular level. It allows us to not only look at where we've published open access, but with whom we've collaborated. We are able to look at more granular visualizations. We can look at authors that have contributed. And if you wanted to look into transformative agreements and whether you want to embark on it, it also has a really nice, unique tool that can showcase around how you are able to contribute to those publications. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to jump into Insights, Benchmarking, Analytics, and then I'll come back to my slides. And while I'm doing that, if you have any questions, please feel free to pop it in the chat box. All right, so the Web of Science, of course, just to run through the access point, you should be able to access it through your library holdings. It's usually underneath A to Z resources, underneath W for Web of Science. We now go into the Web of Science search page. We've done a researcher visibility course. If you want to rerun something on author profiles and you want to get a clearer understanding of the profile, the Web of Science 1 profile that they've added, you are welcome once again to reach out to us. There are a number of things that we could help you with, but just to quickly showcase what they've done is they've brought in the authors. So currently I'm accessing it using Sylvia Gorani, one of the account manager's logins. If she was a researcher, you would have been able to see a complete research profile from here, her recent searches. You'll also be able to access her researcher metrics. You can add her publication, the peer reviews that she's done. She can also add export her CV. So everything is in one place. But we run sessions on these, so you are definitely welcome to reach out to us. You can also see when you open up the refining panel, where you are able to edit your researcher profile. It can seamlessly link to ORCID. So if you want to do that, you can just go to edit and you are able to then, as soon as it catches up, you'll be able to look at your peer review, your profile, and at the ORCID syncing, you are able to connect your ORCID ID. So it seamlessly integrates then with ORCID, and it allows you to quickly link and sync your content with ORCID. So that's just quickly on that. All right, so just a quick show and tell on the researcher profiles that they've now made available. All right, back to the topic at hand. Sorry, I just need to close this. There we go. All right. So going back to the search page, just to take you through some of the open access visibility that you can discover within the Web of Science core collection or even in the databases. So I can do any search. So for example, if I wanted to do something on, let's say, compounding or curcumin suppresses in vitro proliferation, we are able to run a search and find open access. This was a very specific search. So let me do one on precision medicine instead. And what you are able to see from the start is I can filter for open access. And then you immediately will be able to see all the open access. But what they've also done is you are able to filter down on the left-hand panel and look at the different options of open access. So it has changed in terms of differentiating between it. That we are able to see all open access, which would be total of these gold hybrid. So obviously these would be articles that are freely available in paywall publications. Free to read, traditionally was referred to as bronze, and then the different green options: published, accepted, submitted. So you can refine for all of these as an example, and it would then bring your results down to only papers that have been published and following open access models. You're also able to view it more, let's say, visualize it, sorry. So we can see that, for example, if we come down here and we go to open access, I'm able to get a chart of all the open access papers that have been published covering that exact topic. So obviously that is precision medicine. If you want to, for example, now jump into just the gold, you are able to quickly jump into just the gold papers. From these, depending on what tools you've got access to. So for example, if you've got access to essential science indicators, you would be able to narrow these down to highly cited papers, which are papers that are ranked within the top 1% of the world globally. So if I click on this, I'll be able to see, and of course, this supports the drive towards open access. I mean, clearly, because this is a gold open access paper, so the authors paid for the papers to be published, basically. And this paper is a highly cited paper. So this is something that you would like to see. If you analyze your research and looking at the impact, you want to make sure that if you do publish open access, that you select the right titles. But it's also really rewarding to see that where you have published open access, that your paper was well received. And in fact, this paper was ranked in May, June, highly cited paper, because it received enough citations in the field of physics to be ranked within the top 1% globally. So these are the type of analyses that you can do just using the Web of Science. Also, what we are able to do is drill down into more granular document level. So of course, it gives me all sorts of different subject areas that I can look at. And you are also able to look at the types of papers. If I want to clear this, for example, and I go back to my original results on precision medicine, from the start, you don't have to go through the analyze results function. What you can do is you can scroll down, you can go to open access, and you can just say gold and gold hybrid, maybe, if you want to exclude the rest. And you click on refine. You don't have to go to analyze. I like the analyze results over the years. It gives me a visualization of where I'm at. And if you wanted to now see, for example, the journals in which these papers were published, you are also able to do that. I mean, let's do it, drill down even deeper. So let's once again filter for highly cited papers. I can click on refine. And now if I want to see the journals in which these papers were published, it is available as your source titles at the bottom. So we can see the book series titles. You are able to see the publishers, and you can also see the publication titles. So you can use this, or once again, you can use analyze results. And instead of by default looking at categories, we go to publication titles, which means, oh, okay, I can see the highly cited papers that covered the topic of precision medicine that followed either gold or gold hybrid route. These were the journals in which the authors published mostly. So what does this report? Well, it supports a publication strategy. So if the researchers would need a guide on where they could be publishing, they can look at where peers have been publishing that have really achieved high citation impact. We are able to see the performance from a highly cited perspective and drill down. Of course, you need to have access to some of these tools to, for example, see the highly cited options. What I'm also able to do, instead of doing a topic search, of course, I can do a country search, which would mean you would then search in the address, or you can do affiliation search. So I hope my colleagues at Rhodes won't mind me using them as an example. But let's say we want to search Rhodes and we want to drill down into their open access papers. You can even combine it with a specific year. Once again, we can do gold hybrid, and you can click on refine. So we can see the number of gold open access papers that they've published. Once again, I can narrow down to highly cited research. So these are the gold open access highly cited papers they've published. And the categories, astronomy, environmental studies. I can even go and view those records if I wanted to. And of course, to access it, once again, free full text because it's open access. I can easily go and access it. I just click on the full text and it takes me, here's my EndNote clicker. So it just opens it up. So I'm able to view that part as well. Going back to my search page, I mean, there's so much that you can do with this. I can even go into the full record. And if this is something that I find useful or important, once again, in the full record, you can see there's an open access version and a publisher version. So I don't have to go through a link resolver. I can immediately just click on this and it will take me to the access that I have. So this is how EndNote clicker would work. And in my locker page, I can save this in my locker. I can export to my EndNote referencing tool from here. And I can also just download it or save it. Okay. Going back to the full record within the Web of Science. The strength of the Web of Science allows us to discover more research. So we can either look at the records that have been citing this paper. So there are 129 other records. We can look at 131 references that have been used. Obviously, it's the references that this paper has been citing. And if we want to see a breakdown of the citations, the 129 citing papers are already indexed in the Web of Science core collection. 34 of them would be in the by-hosted citation index. Okay, but if I write a paper and someone else writes a paper and we cite the same references, chances are that our research could be related. So I can jump to related records. Once again, I can narrow this down to open access papers. And if I wanted to discover those, or maybe even include free to read, I'll find research that was related to the paper that I just looked at. By default, it's arranged by relevance. Once again, I have different options to filter for. And the one that's most relevant was also a highly cited paper. So it really helps us to discover and also apply a higher level of metrics and analyzing our performance within open access. Going back to the search page, once again using Rhodes. So let's say, for example, we wanted to see, all right, the research areas that we publish in as an institution. We can see Web of Science categories. If I go back, I can once again filter this for open access. I refine open access, and I can quickly see the subject areas in which I've published. Once again, open access. You can download and you can export these without a problem. All right. We do, however, want to sometimes not only look at ranking of papers in the sense of highly cited, or not just only at the number of papers. We may want to jump further into the analytical component and be able to analyze our papers further. And this is where tools such as essential science indicators, insight, and journal citation reports come into play. So Insights is a benchmarking and analytical tool that allows us to report and analyze and evaluate our research, really, looking at collaboration data, looking at everything. So just as an example, to give you a good overview of what can be done, let me just remove this. There we go. We can see that, for example, for Northwest University, I can look at research performance, which will bring me to Web of Science categories. It will bring me to production, which is really number of papers versus citations. There's nothing wrong with this graph. We're still in 2022. Insights is updated monthly, while the Web of Science is obviously updated daily. But what we would like to look at is our impact to ensure this is the global average, that our impact is above global average. So this is what Insights allows us to do, is to gain a deeper understanding of our institution overall, looking at, for example, collaborations, looking at our collaborations per subject area, looking at collaborating institutions, top collaborating academic institutions that we work with. It allows us as a library to drill down into component to see where our researchers are publishing, which journals are they citing, are they citing recent or older material, and of course, if we have access to information, we would assume that our researchers would cite those, so that is still in a way you would be able to determine and justify it. But what about the journals that are citing your authors? Do you know which papers out there are citing your authors, which journal publications, journal level? So this is also very helpful to see which journals are citing our authors. And where open access comes into play is this can be analyzed for open access only. So let's say, for example, we want to take Northwest University and we want to look at open access journals that have cited our authors. We are able to quickly jump into the data, and within Insights, we've got a bouquet of indicators to choose from. But we want to look into open access specifically. And we can say all open access, and we update results. So here we can see which journals that are published in open access are citing my authors. So incoming citations to Northwest University, open access titles are these titles listed here. What I can do, rank just means the order in which they have been arranged. What I can do is I can add journal impact factor quartile. I can, for example, add normalized citation impact to tell me how they are performing within their subject areas, which is a very helpful metric. You maybe want to look at the journal impact factor rank, which will tell me how high it's ranked within its subject area, and you apply. What does this inform me about? Well, this could inform, you can do this by publisher, once again, to analyze your transformative agreements if you wanted to, or you can use this as a guide for your researchers. If they want to go the open access route, they're not 100% certain which journal would be most fitting for them. Combined with the Web of Science, you are able to look at it from that perspective. So what I would suggest you do is you do a search in the Web of Science and you export it to Insights as a topic database. So for example, we had a topic, justice and disciplines in schools, and I can look at publication sources in which those papers were published, and I can filter them for open access. and add more indicators to help inform our publication strategy. So here I can see they have been mostly cited by Q1 journals. So a lot of the Q1 journals have been citing Northwest authors. So that helps us to put a bit of context into open access analysis and visibility. So that's available in the organization report. If I want to do a custom analysis, once again, let's use Rhodes as an example. I am able to do an analysis of Rhodes compared with, for example, the University of the Free State. And I'm just going to clear my filters. And I have selected a certain here. Sorry, I need to clear my cache. I'll do that. I'll go and add Rhodes University. And I'll add Free State. You can add as many as you would like to add. So what I see here is number of papers published, the number of citations, the impact, normalized for subject area, which only means they've compared all the organic chemistry papers, citation performance with the global average. And they've taken that complete global average impact, and they would then present it as a figure. So that's really basically put. I run bibliometric workshops where we explain the indicators in more detail. Once again, you're welcome to reach out. What it really tells us is that both of these are publishing over the last couple of years consistently above global average cumulatively. We can do a visual graph to see which years really contributed to that. So if I choose a trend graph as an example, I'll be able to see where they have published and where have they performed above the global expected level. So of course, we can see the difference just in number of papers. Number of papers is good, especially with the accreditation. It tells us more about our productivity, but we may want to look at category normalized citation impact. And here we are able to see, okay, this is our category normalized citation impact, and we can see which years have really contributed to Rhodes maintaining. Well, both of them have basically been above global expected level. A global expected level is set at 1. So this is overall, of course. Now, imagine you can do this for open access. How easy would that be? Well, we can take it from 2 different angles. Apology. We can either look at it from, these are our papers that we published in the core collection. Of those papers, let's go and add open access data. So we are able to add open access data by just adding it as an indicator. Sorry, buttons one. Open access papers. Sorry, let me just get them here. So these are all the indicators that you can access for. So we've got gold, we can gold hybrid, or if you just wanted to look at it holistically, you are able to do so. Right, so now we can see I've published 6,940 papers, of which, and you can remove some of these if you wanted to, 3,000, so almost half of it, I'd say, is open access papers, of which 313 were in hybrid. And of course, you could then add the gold component as well. Oh, there's the gold component. You can also change it easy to turn it around so that you compare it next to one another. It's really easy to do. All right, so that's the one way of doing it. Or if you just want to jump into open access analysis from the start, you don't want to look at overall numbers, then look at open access compared, I can just simply go and say all open access, and then you update your results. Okay. So here we can see, of course, the same figure as in my previous, and then of course this one table would tell you exactly the same. But then from this analysis, what you can then say is, well, take Rhodes, for example, the last couple of years. 1,777 open access papers with a normalized category citation impact of 1.7, so 1.7 the global times the global average. Of these, 1,200 were with international co-authors. 44 of these were highly cited authors. And you can also look at domestic collaborations. We can look at how many of those papers were published in top journals, top 25% journals, which is Q1 journals. And we can see what model was gold and what was gold hybrid. I can easily download this in an Excel file. If I do a trend graph, it's going to take those individual years. Or in cumulative, you'll be able to find it in your downloads. Just to show you quickly how you will then be able to open your file. That one. Not that one. So it would be easy to view. Okay. Once you've opened it up, you are able to do a dashboard you change the way in which the data is being displayed. So you are able to see how it's being displayed from column to column. So it's really easy to download it there. What we are also able to do on the visual side is to add this to a report. So the report would then be added to your dashboard. So if you often do, for example, analysis on open access, and you don't want to rerun the same analysis every time, then you are able to do so using saving your items to your dashboard. And every time Insights gets updated, it would then update your graphs. So just to show you my dashboard. So every time you do an analysis, you would then be able to see the performance. So you are able to do this for your institution, and we can help you set up your dashboard, which is really helpful because you don't then have to rerun those graphs every single time. Okay. Jumping back, it's really easy to do. I just go into organizations. All right. So just one other thing. So let's say, for example, you are in an analysis and you wanted to, for example, see the subject areas. You can quickly jump into the subject areas by viewing them, and you can even then look at collaborating institutions if you wanted to. Going into research areas, we are then able to view. So for Rhodes University, once again, astronomy and astrophysics, we can bring this to a more granular level using something called citation topics. So citation topics allows us to drill down into a very specific area of research. So you're not only looking at physics, you're actually looking at astronomy and astrophysics, particles and fields, or meteorological and atmospheric sciences. So maybe that would be the one that you want to look into. So here we can see these are the micro areas that you've been researching on. And these are the open access papers that you've been publishing in. Remember, we filtered this for open access. Once again, you can view this visually if you wanted to. So you are able to look at it holistically, or if you wanted to, from the start, jump into the very micro area, you are able to do so. Okay, I'm going to stop talking about Insights now. There's a lot that you can do with open access. You can look at the authors that have contributed to it. You can see where you have published in terms of source publications, of course, adding more indicator data like impact factor information, ranking of information, category normalized citation impact. All of that can be done with Insights and far more. If you don't have access to Insights, you're welcome to reach out to us. For those that do have access to Insights, please get in touch. if you want a session, there's so much that you can do with this. And if you want us to unpack it based on specific questions that you have, once again, you are welcome to reach out. Jumping back to my presentation, I want to make sure. All right, so that was insights, benchmarking, and analytics. Journal citation reports, and then I'll be done. The journal citation reports was redesigned in 2018 to provide a journal profile to promote responsible metrics. And rather than just focusing on the journal impact factor, which is a really great indicator, but for more transparency, they've also added more information. So you are able to filter for open access and clear open access status indicators on the profiles. So let me jump into journal citation reports to show this to you, and it's really easy to do. Oh, sorry. I'm just going to jump into journal citation reports. Okay, so this is what you would be able to do. So you can either do search for a journal using a specific journal name, or maybe you want to do it from a subject area. So this is the category name. So in the category name, you are able to see then, even from a glance, if we look at the journals that are categorized in biotechnology and applied microbiology, of each of these journals, what's the percentage of the contribution to this journal in terms of open access? So as a researcher, you are able to also see, well, obviously genome biology, we can see percentage of gold open access. I'm going to take one that's slightly, let's say almost half. Let's go into this one. So here we can see it's indexed and the Science Citation Index expanded for those that have access to Web of Science core collection. This would be, of course, one of the indexes that you've got access to. We can see the ISIN and all the data around the title. We can also see the category in which it has been indexed. Often we'll see that a title is indexed in more than one category. I think the maximum number is 5, and thereafter it becomes a multidisciplinary title, like Science and Nature. It's categorized as the category multidisciplinary. So here we can see the publisher information, journal performance. This is where I'll find the impact factor for those who don't work with the impact factor a lot. If a title has an impact factor of 10, it means that on average, a paper published in that journal in the last 2 years would receive at least, or on average, 10 citations. They always have it with and without self-citations. Not that self-citations is a bad thing. I always tell people need to improve on their current work, but you want to see a healthy ratio. This can also be exported. They also added a normalized indicator, which takes the subject area into consideration, as well as articles and reviews. And then they calculate a normalized citation indicator. So you can also have a look at that. But then in terms of citation distribution and open access, you'll find at the bottom of the page where we are able to see, well, the citable items, there are 512. The percentage of open access papers were 21, and here we can see a breakdown of it. Gold open access, subscription and free to read, and other non-citable items. So you are able to see even the citation scores in terms of gold open access. So once again, it really helps us to support our strategy in where we want to publish in terms of open access. So it's far more transparent. It's the new platform. If you wanted to jump back and really do a search, you can also go into categories. You can search for publishers as an example. So you can just go and you can search for journals by specific publishers. So example, this would be American Society of Microbiology. You can also do a publisher report, insights analysis, if you've got access to insights. which would then allow you to analyze the publisher even further. All right. So that's just a basic overview of the open access information within the journal citation reports. I'm also able to just go and search for a specific title as well. So if you search Nature, using them as an example, it will then bring up Nature, and it will take you directly to that journal's performance page, the profile page of the journal. Once again, scroll down into open access. And if you go further down, which I haven't showed, as you can see how high this journal is ranked by impact factor. It's ranked first, which would mean science would be second. They always head to head on these things, and two really great publications. But yes, so that is the journal citation reports. Okay. So lastly, what I would like to show to you is the master journal list. The master journal list can be easily accessed. You can just go master journal list. As you can see, it's already pre-populated. It's the MJL. Often I get queries on, is something indexed in the Web of Science? Obviously for accredited purposes, I would come to the master journal list and I would look up the title, and it would then bring up the title. So let's say, for example, I was searching for ACS's chemical biology. I can see it's indexed in the Web of Science core collection, as well as all the other databases that it's indexed in. It's free to use this service. And if you create a login, you'll be able to see a bit more information. I can even then go and say, well, list only the open access journals according to the directory of open access journals. So we can then see which journals are open access. This one, Advances in Human Biology, is an emerging sources citation index journal, would therefore not be as part of the accreditation. This one could be, depending on when it started indexing. So of course, there you'll be able to see what journals are available. If you go into your login, so let me just quickly log in here. So it's part of the open access support. So Sylvia is now logged in. I can also use Match Manuscript, which is really nice. The Match Manuscript as part of the obviously open knowledge resources and support tools is you can match your manuscript. So if I go to Match Manuscript, you add in your title, you add in precision. Let's just do this as an example, precision medicine. I'm just going to do this, precision medicine. And you can find journals. So here it finds journals that could be of, you can see the match score. So it matches, of course, the more information you add, the more accurate it will be. But then it puts out a list of journals that are indexed in the Web of Science resources. And then by default, you can see which ones are core collection titles. All right. Okay, of course, once again, you can narrow this down to open access, which would give you a good indication of which ones are open access titles. All right. Just to show you the profile page from here, will just give you a bit more information about the frequency of the publication, the Web of Science cover. You'll be able to find similar journals, and then you'll be able to see, for those that have journal citation reports, you'll be able to see more information on this specific journal. All right. Well, that brings me to the end of my presentation. We've got 4 minutes left. Are there any questions? I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
I don't see any in the chat box or the Q&A box, but you're welcome to raise your hand and I'll allow you to speak as well if you prefer that. So just raise your hand and then I'll unmute you. Okay, I don't think there are any questions, Melissa. Thank you so much for sharing today. And again, just to reiterate, if there if you're interested to learn more about any of the tools that Melissa covered today, please feel free to reach out and we'll be happy to set something up for you. And yes, if there are any questions that you think of after the session, also please feel free to reach out. Thank you very much, Melissa, and thank everybody for joining.
Thank you very much, Nadja. Thank you, everyone. Hope you guys have a good week and we'll be in touch soon. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thanks. Bye.